Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Alright, cool. I'll stop for now.
Oh, Charlie. Oh, yeah, then. You're in your group, no? Yeah, start it. I have some Android program. Open source, I'm sending links to the launch. Miss Andiama. It's not any Facebook, Miss Andy link number. Yeah. Oh no. Really? I'm coming in. Try that and let me see. I'll send you anyone. Yeah. Download. Okay. You have to download the software before you can. Just click on it and install. Sorry. Hello?
I'm here.
Yeah. I think we have just 3 people who have joined. 2. Okay, let me say 2. Yeah, screening you. Let's see.
We can just wait another 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it needs.
Okay. So I'll be recording that, and we can share. Wait. You can share the video with those who might not be able to join or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me do the introduction before we continue this. So hello everyone. We are really excited to have you today on today's webinar. And today the webinar will be led by Tyler, and it's going to be about Android community and a bit of offline architecture. So in no time, I will hand over to Tyler for him to lead us through this webinar. And maybe he can give more introduction about himself for us. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name is Tyler McCraw. I live in Durham, North Carolina. So if you know anything about the States, that's like I guess it's like 5 or 6 hours south of DC, Washington, DC. I've lived here in North Carolina all my life. Went to North Carolina State University for computer science. Kind of have stuck in Android development ever since my junior or senior year in college, which was back in 2011. And so, yeah, I've been an Android developer for, I can't do the math right now. I guess that's 7 or 8 years. So I've come to really get involved in the Android developer community. And so that's kind of why I wanted to present this talk to you all and, see if you all have any interest in, developing the community there.
Awesome. Yeah. So,
do you want to go round robin and have everyone else introduce themselves, or do you want to just go ahead and start the talk?
Okay, so I think everyone would. I think we are just few, so everyone will just introduce him or herself. So about me, so my name is Oliver Mensah, and I just graduated from my computer science studies. I've been doing mostly web development for some time, and before my graduation, I did a bit of Android development, so I had more interest in Android development. Then I focused more with Android development, so that's what I've been doing now after my graduation. So that's a bit about me. So yeah. So I think someone else will take over from there. Bekun. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. So we are introducing ourselves, so maybe if you can take it over from there.
All right. So my name is Kabna Bekon. I'm also a graduate in computer science. I've been doing Android for I think 3 or 4 years now.
Wow.
I'm actually working as an Android developer too. So this talk, I wanted to get involved in this talk. I'm sure I'll learn a lot of things from it.
Okay, awesome. So who else? Who else is also taking? Josh? Okay, so let's hear from you.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Joshua, and also computer IT information technology graduate from Ghana, and also just started developing and just out there. I'll be glad to be part of this meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we are just four now, so I think we'll hand over to Tyler to go ahead, continue with the talk for us.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so let me share my screen here. Got some slides. Oliver, let me know if you see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So yeah, everyone, like I said, I'm going to be talking about getting involved in the community, how you can get involved in the community on an individual level. And, this talk will be more about figuring out ways that you can set up a routine for yourself so that you can learn how to learn quicker. It's basically a way for you to sort of accelerate your growth in your career as an Android developer, and just get involved and interact with other Android developers out there.
Okay.
So just a little bit about myself. Again, these are a few of the pictures of me, and we have two dogs, Sylvia and Odessa. It's my wife, Jen, and we actually just had a baby boy 6 weeks ago tomorrow. So I'm very excited about him. It's been really awesome to see him come to life, smiling all the time. But just want to give you a little bit of a insight into who I am. Hopefully, this is going to be a little bit more informal talk than a conference talk here. But yeah, so I have experience in Android development sort of ever since I got out of college. I went and interned at a financial institution called Credit Suisse. I built their first Android application. It was sort of like an investment real-time stock application. Moved on to a different company that was more of like a consultancy that worked with big name companies like ExxonMobil and things like that. And then from there, I went to a different consultancy called Smashing Boxes. They worked with many different clients. So that was kind of neat to be able to work on different kinds of projects that were, varying in all sorts of ways. So now I'm working for a private company called Extend. And basically what they do is they allow companies to send virtual credit cards to freelancers and contractors and other employees, basically allowing people to send money virtually in real time and cancel them. If something happens, if someone gets fired or something, you can cancel it, change the amount, things like that. So yeah, to get started here, I sent out I'm going to stop for a second. Could other people mute themselves just so that I'm not trying to talk over?
Hello?
Yeah, if you are going to try to
Oliver, do you have a way of muting other people? I'm just getting a lot of feedback.
You need to.
when just go down.
All right, well, I'll try and keep going. If everyone can just try and keep the noise to a minimum, then it'll be much easier for me. So I sent out basically a survey just quickly on Twitter to see what other people were thinking about as far as like what is the hardest part about staying up to date as a developer. And this is just not Android development. This is across the board. And most people responded with balancing career versus life. Trying to tackle time management between what you want to do outside of work for your career and what you want to do for your career. And then also the second most was always feeling behind, which everyone in Android developer, as an Android developer, feels behind because it's just constantly updating, and it's just never something that you can keep up with to stay up to date all the time. What I'm going to get into is, we're going to start to think about what tools, environments, and routines help you learn the most. And then, I just wanted to, before we start here, I did see that Google Play opened support for paid apps last month in Ghana, which is a huge step for you all, especially if you want to get in as an indie developer. So that's going to be a huge tool and resource for you all to get involved if you just want to start building your own apps and either using ads or pay-based, subscription and things like that for Android development there. And hopefully at the end of this talk, we can sort of help you all build an even bigger community in Android development and make Google realize that there's a huge community here, and hopefully it won't take so long to implement things such as paid apps in the future there in Ghana. But yeah, so step one is sort of realizing what tools and environments are out there for you. But sort of where I want to go with this is step zero, which is learning where to go and learning more about yourself so that you can understand how you can learn quicker. So what we're going to do is sort of explore, what type of learner you are and think about that, sort of go through in mind what are all the things out there that you can incorporate into sort of a routine. And that way it'll help you set yourself up for success and learning more in the future. So, we need to think about how do you learn and retain information the most? What sorts of practices do you use? When do you learn best? Are you a night owl or are you an early bird? I used to be a night owl, but ever since I think we had our baby boy, I've been more of an early bird because I've been waking up at 5 a.m, surprisingly, which I could never do in the past. But and then also, think about, do you learn best in short sprints? Do you need to just take quick breaks and get into something and then get out? Or are you more of like a marathon studier? Do you need to have a scheduled block of 2 hours, 3 hours to get into something, read it, fully comprehend everything, and then, move on? So I sort of broken this up into 5 categories, and we're going to go into a bunch of different kinds of resources out there. Maybe some of them you haven't heard of before, probably a lot of them you have, but we're going to talk about each of them and maybe see if you've heard about the Android developer involvement in each of these areas. So the first one that we're going to tackle is social. So I just want to mention networking is probably one of the most important things that you can do for your career, especially as a developer. I can't tell you how many times I've interacted with people where I've gotten help on a very specific problem at work or for a side project, where I've gotten job interviews just off the cusp of talking with someone when I needed a new job where I wanted to move on. That's something else. And then also just making friends with other people at conferences and meetups and things like that. It's just definitely helped, formulate this huge hobby of mine, which is also Android development. And I think, even if you are an introvert like I am, then, networking can be a huge task for you, but it's going to be something that pays off in the end for sure. So the first one, just getting into Twitter. I mean, everyone's heard of Twitter. Most of you are probably on Twitter. I think I started getting on Twitter a few years ago, back when I was trying to get more involved in Android development. And I sort of used Twitter as a way to get more involved in the developer community. I had realized before I kind of deleted my Facebook a few years ago, I just got so involved in scrolling through Facebook, and it's a huge time suck. It can eat up all your time, and before you know it, the night's over and you haven't really done anything. So that's kind of why I stayed away from social networks for a while. But once I got back into seeing how there are a lot of people who are in the Android developer community on Twitter, I got involved in it and started following people just to use Twitter as sort of an Android developer timeline, if you will, to stay up to date with all the latest things One of the great things that I think a lot of people don't really know about on Twitter is that all of the Google developer experts are for Android are on Twitter. And what you can do is you can actually go to developers.google.com/experts. And if you don't know what a Google developer expert is, it's basically just someone who Google has designated as sort of a senior developer who promotes Android development. And they basically, know a lot in their field. So they help promote things like new APIs that are coming out from Google. And Google, I think if you're a GDE, you get sent out to conferences for free, all expenses paid, things like that. So you can actually apply for to become a GDE if you want to. That's actually one of my goals is to eventually become a GDE. It would be kind of cool to just, have that little badge there, but you can do it too. Like you can go and if you know someone who is a GDE, ask them to refer you or things like that. But basically what my point is you can go to developers.google.com/experts, find all the Android developers who are GDEs and follow them on Twitter. And what I've done is I've just created a Twitter list with all the GDEs. And, every morning I like to check it just to see, what's new coming out. And typically there's like a GDE who's been posting something new that I've never heard of before, and it's helped me out. And it's also just a great way to, meet friends who are maybe in your local area or, international friends who you can meet up at conferences and, establish relationships that will continue on through your career. The next one is Meetup. So we actually have an Android developer meetup specifically here in Durham, North Carolina. And it's a pretty neat thing because every third Thursday of every month, there's someone who hosts a talk. And so there's someone who manages it individually, but you can ask this person to, to be able to host a talk there and sort of present something that you've learned, which is a great way to sort of, build up your public speaking skills and then also just meet other people, which is, I think, the biggest point of Meetup is finding other people that are like-minded and who have the same passion as you. I will mention it's a great tool for if you're traveling to another big city. Like, so let's say if you're going to New York City or, anywhere in the world, there are meetups everywhere. And if you're traveling and you know that it's a bigger city, then more than likely you'll probably find a meetup that's either just a generic developer meetup or an Android developer meetup. And so it's a great way to, remember, if you're not doing anything that night while you're traveling, just check and see if there's a meetup happening that night. And so, yeah, move on to the next thing. The other thing is just meeting up. So I know this kind of goes without saying, but just find another Android developer that you know of that you enjoy talking to, or maybe someone you've never even met before on Twitter, and just go grab a coffee, a tea, or something, and talk shop for a while. It's been one of the best ways, one of my favorite ways to just get excited about some new things that Google are coming out with, and just figure out what you guys share in common, and maybe you'll work on a project together in the future. The next thing is a pretty big one, conferences. Everyone in the Android developer world talks about conferences. For the longest time, I couldn't really afford to go to conferences. They're very expensive, and especially traveling there is very expensive. I was able to work at a company, actually was able to fund part of my way to go to a conference this past year. I was able to go to Google I/O, which was great. But what I want to say is, this is a great way to network. And not a lot of people think of conferences as like a place to go to just talk with other people. But I will say the first two conferences that I went to, I wasted them because I just went to the talks. And nowadays with the conferences, the format that they go through, they post the videos up either in real time or, a few weeks later, the videos of the talks are already there. So you're not if you go to a conference, remember that you're not paying to go see the talks only. You're paying to go interact with the people who are talking. You're going to pay to interact with the companies who are visiting there, the Google developers who are on the UI framework teams, things like that. And there's a ton of conferences out there. These are just a few. And this one in the center is actually one that's about an hour away that I saw just started up a couple of years ago. So if you don't have a conference there, there's some pretty easy ways to start one. One of them being IO Extended. So if you want to, have a mini conference while Google I/O is going on next year, you can go to their website and host an IO Extended, in your city, and be able to interact with other developers, have them come, meet up at the same place, and maybe even have a few talks, have a couple of people give some talks there. And if you want, you can have Google basically provide you some swag and like t-shirts and things like that to hand out. And so someone asked if I can share the Twitter handles of my favorite GDs. I will definitely send those out after the end of the talk. I have a whole list. So I'm going to show you just the number of conferences here. Hopefully you all can see this list. There are like hundreds since 2015. So there are plenty that are out there all over the world. And just take a look at this list. It's called androidstudygroup.github.io/conferences. And you can see the upcoming ones, the ones that are happening right now. So apparently there's a conference happening right now in the Philippines. And you can see if they are open for call for papers. So if you don't know what that means, call for papers is just a way for a conference to open up proposals if you want to host at their conference. So, if you get involved in a meetup and start to get really comfortable with talking in front of other people, the next step eventually is to submit a call for paper at a conference if you want to do that. And so basically you submit a proposal. It's like a paragraph or two of, what your topic is going to be on, and they'll let you know within a few weeks or so whether or not you are accepted as a speaker at their event. So if you see that call for papers, that's just basically an open request for people to, see if you want to come talk there. So the next thing is Slack. So there are actually a couple Slack groups that are specific to Android development out there. The major one that I know of is called Android United Slack group. You can just Google search that. It's open to everyone, and there are thousands and thousands of people on that group. Like it's amazing how many Android developers are out there in the world once you start to get involved in like a Slack group that is so large. I think that the Slack group is great if you're a beginner developer, because one of the great features of Slack is you get sort of instant feedback. People are online on the Slack group all day, and especially beginners. And so, if you're not getting an answer on Stack Overflow quick enough, go to the Android United Slack group, and they have a bunch of different channels. They have channels on architecture, on, RxJava, Kotlin, database, everything you can think of, there's a channel for. And, hopefully someone can help you out if you have a specific problem there. It's also a great way to interact with other people before you go to a conference. So I know I've met up and talked on Slack, on this particular Slack group, with other people that are going to a particular conference, and it's a great way to say, hey, I'm going to be at a such and such coffee shop this morning during the conference week. You want to meet up or something, or do you want to go, grab a drink afterwards? So that's a great outlet for that. The next thing is Reddit. And so this is sort of kind of gone down the hill. And it was sort of a scary thing for me because I could spend hours and hours on and hours on Reddit. It's just a huge time suck, just like any other social network. But what I've done specifically to prevent myself from spending too much time on, just looking at GIFs of cats and things like that is to basically download an app on my phone for Reddit and only subscribe to the Android dev subreddit. And so what that allows me to do is just see only the Android devs, the Android dev feed. And so basically it's just another outlet to get, news that are people are posting, new blogs, new, libraries and projects and things like that. They update that pretty often. It hasn't been moderated in a while, but it's still a great outlet. So the next topic, I know that one was a big one. These other ones are a little bit smaller, but the next one is written text, and this one's going to be pretty obvious to everyone. So blogs. If you haven't found a good set of few blogs, go find them and maybe subscribe to them or something like that. The best thing for blogs is Medium, which I'll go into in a second. But all of the GDEs that I mentioned earlier for Android development, a lot of them have blogs. Some of them are hosted on their own website. Some of them are hosted on Medium. And then Google also runs a slew of their own blogs. But also, I want to mention, if you haven't started your own blog, if you haven't started your own Medium account or something like that, go and do it. It's one of the best benefits that you can provide to yourself, because what you will do when you create a blog post or write a blog post is you will get involved in learning about a particular topic more than you would otherwise. And it's also a great way to help you retain info. So, as we were talking about earlier, trying to learn how to build a routine to help you learn quicker. This is one of those great things that are really easy to do. It's something that you can get in and do quickly. And one of the great benefits of writing a blog post also is you can always refer back to it. And a lot of the experts out there say, blog posts aren't for other people. They're actually for you, because they help you probably more than other people. But, if you write something so detailed that, gets a lot of traction, maybe it will help a lot of other people out there. And I guess that's the other goal of it. And also don't get discouraged about writing your own post if someone's already written something about it. So, if there's a particular feature in Kotlin that you haven't explored yet, write something about it. And it doesn't matter if someone's already written 20 blog posts on it, just get involved in it. And it's important because your perspective is unique and different than everyone else's. And so you may help someone else because you think a particular way, whereas every other person that wrote that blog post before didn't think that way and didn't write it that way. So you can help other people by just providing your own perspective. Also, interact with writers, leave comments, give them feedback. One of the best ways that I've found to solve some issues when I'm learning a new topic like RxJava or something like that is to, just interact with people who've written blog posts on RxJava or something like that and comment with them and ask them questions about what they meant in the blog. And then also, just tell people that you really appreciated them writing this blog, because one of the best benefits of our community versus other communities that are out there, and I've talked with a bunch of different kinds of developers, our community is very motivated and very uplifting for other developers. So when you become an expert, hopefully you will help other people out there. And then also I want to mention, read blog posts that are not on the Android platform. I can't tell you how many times I've read a blog post on React Native or iOS on a particular feature that hasn't really been solved yet on Android, and they solved it fluidly on iOS or React Native. And I was able to take that feature and basically port it to Android, and it worked better than anything out there, better than any other open source library. So read other posts from other platforms and other languages. And then one little trick with blogs that you may not be aware of is if you download the If This Then That app, when you go to search it for it in Google Play, it's going to be IFTTT. And basically what you can do is you can create sort of a little script that will allow you to get a push notification on your phone anytime an article has been posted by a particular person. And this is all powered by RSS feeds. So if someone has a website or a Medium and they post a new article and you enjoy reading their posts, you can get a push notification to your phone. So yeah, Medium, I already talked about this. Let's see. Oh yeah, Dev2, someone mentioned in the chat, dev.to is a great website especially for other platforms. There's a lot of web developers on there, but I've learned a lot about just general developer life. So if you go to dev.to, that's a great website. And then the next thing is newsletters. So there's about 5 or so newsletters out there that are specifically to Android development. One of the best ones out there being Android Weekly. So I'm just going to name these off, but if you want the full list later on, I can send you, I have an article that has listed all of these out for you. But Android Weekly, Android Dev Digest, Kotlin Weekly, Android Suites, and Android Lib Hunt. These are all like great newsletters. I've subscribed to a couple of them just because I like to, every week I'll get an email and I'll get to see a list of articles that people have posted that are like the top ones that everyone has been reading. And, you know, it just helps me see what other people are getting into. The next thing is books. This one's a pretty obvious one for everyone. But there are a couple unique things that I want to talk about here. So my favorite books right now are or have been Android Programming, The Big Nerd Ranch Guide. The Big Nerd Ranch Guide produces very high quality books. Design Patterns, Head First Design Patterns, Clean Code, and there's also a few Kotlin books out there that I've gotten that are really, really great. And so those are my favorite books so far. But a couple tricks that I want to mention: if you can't afford a book, because sometimes these books cost an arm and a leg, there are some open source books out there. If you go to a website called eBook Foundation, they have some Android developer books out there that are free. They've been quote unquote open sourced. So you can download them for free on any format. And so eBook Foundation is a great resource there. Another thing, if you're getting into Kotlin, this is my favorite of this section, is the Kotlin documentation set is all available as a PDF on their website. So you can download all of the documentation of Kotlin, which, by the way, Kotlin documentation is some of the best written documentation of any programming language or platform out there. You can download it as a PDF and the whole thing. And what I have liked to do with that PDF is, like, when I'm going on a trip, I'm riding a train, or if I'm in the car and someone else is driving, I'll just read through that. And that is actually how I got into Kotlin, was just reading that PDF on my own. And some of it's, you know, a little bit hard to follow because you really need like a hands-on interaction with the code, but most of it is so well written that you can understand it that easily. And then also want to mention, if you do buy a book from like Amazon or something like that, most books nowadays come with an EPUB copy. So what that means is, you know, you can get a digital copy, so you can just save it to your phone or tablet or something, so you can read, even if you don't want to like carry that huge 10-pound book everywhere. And what I like to do is, you know, just set a yearly goal for yourself, maybe 1 to 4 books every year. And, you know, I think that's a pretty good, reasonable goal to set for yourself. If you can read like 1 to 4 books per year of like architecture patterns or programming language or something like that, like, you're doing very well as a developer. The next thing is speaker deck slides. These are just slides. It's a website that most people who present talks, they post their slides there after the talk at conferences. So it's just a quick resource. You can go to speakerdeck.com. Another thing that not a lot of people know about in the Android developer world is the Playbook app. So this is an app that is built by Google that provides a lot of resources. I think weekly they send out a notification or something like that. But basically you just download it on your phone, and they have a very easy way of finding resources that present topics that are coming out in the Android developer world. The next thing is audio. This one's pretty quick. So it's one of my favorite topics because I've really gotten into podcasts. It's kind of my way of how I learn really well. So this may not be your way, but what I found is like if I'm driving a car somewhere, or if I'm like walking to a coffee shop, or wherever, I can just plug my earphones in and listen to a very quick podcast. And it's a great way to like hear other Android developers talk about a specific topic. And if you haven't, gotten really into Android developer podcasts before, it may sound kind of weird. Like, why would you want to listen to people talk about code if you can't even see it? But a lot of the podcasts out there actually make it super easy to, get through a topic and discuss it in depth. So my favorite one is a Fragmented podcast. I'm sure a lot of you know or have heard about that one. And so that's run by